Now let's get to some big, bold Blues decisions to be made with the side being named on Monday in hoops. There is some mail that Edwards is the front runner for fullback. Is that the case or not?
I think this is the biggest decision facing Michael Maguire. It relates to the number one jumper. James Tedesco is the incumbent. He's played 22 straight State of Origin games since making his debut in 2016. Dylan Edwards is a live chance of forcing his way into this team and unseating Teddy as New South Wales captain, which would be a huge story. It would obviously dominate headlines leading into the opening game of the series. I'm not saying he's over the line.
But it's a possibility because this has
a big possibility.
This has been spoken about by the rugby league world, really, all year. A lot calling for Edwards to get the spot and a lot saying the incumbent and captain James Tedesco should remain in that spot. But you're telling us right here, right now, that the decision hasn't been made and it will be made over the weekend.
It'll be made Sunday afternoon, Braith. Both players obviously feature on Super Saturday. I think if Nathan Cleary's fit, then Dylan Edwards is in the team. Certainly that's the word around the game of what Michael Maguire was saying.
So he would have been if Nathan was...
If Nathan was guaranteed fit, then I think Nathan would take over as captain, and I think that Dylan Edwards would absolutely be the number one. Since Nathan's been injured, it has become more of a 50-50 race. A lot of people in the game will say, no, you can't drop Teddy. He's a champion. He is the leader of the state. There's absolutely no way. It's absurd.
Will Michael Maguire, you mentioned something there about the headlines that dropping New South Wales captain James Tedesco would generate. Is that going to factor into his decision-making when it comes to it? Is he going to, if it is a 50-50, the fact that this would be less negative in terms of a headline act?
We all know Madge, and I think the type of person that he is, he's just going to pick the best team that he thinks can win in the furnace of State of Origin football. If you're asking me for my opinion, Braith, and I'm certainly not being critical of James Tedesco, he'll be remembered as one of the all-time greats. He's been the captain for 3 of the last 4 series, and we've only won 1 of those. So I actually think it is time for a change. I think Dylan Edwards has shown on the biggest stage, 3 consecutive grand finals, the Clive Churchill medal in 2022. He can handle it as a last line of defence, as a communicator. He is first class.
He can handle it, and he will be able to handle it. But there's no underestimating how big the call is. It's a big call. Mick, yeah. What do you think?
I personally would go for James Tedesco on the back of the inexperience that are going to be in the halves. Obviously, Nicho Hynes is probably going to start his first Origin game. The 5'8" is still a bit of a toss of the coin. Do they go for Cody Walker? Do they go for Jerome Luai? Neither are igniting the season at the moment. So I think if you leave James Tedesco out of that side, I think there's a massive leadership void. And his form hasn't been that bad where you axe him. So as Hoops alluded to, if Nathan Cleary was the 7, I would have gone Dylan Edwards at 1. But without Nathan Cleary, I think I'm going to stick with James Tedesco.
Jimmy, what's the difference between these two players? What does one bring that the other doesn't? What's the positives and negatives with either one here?
Well, Edwards is absolutely everywhere, and he's got game-winning experience in the biggest game of the regular NRL season. There's nothing more that Dylan Edwards can do. James Tedesco, I think, at the back end of last year, arguably had a form slump and questions came from him. But I really like the way he's gone back and responded to that criticism, whether or not he's trying to prove to anybody that he needs to earn this jersey. But I think his performances to start this season has been first class. Yeah. He's got that pinball-style run where, what saw him be his best, he's got that back into his game. So, look, there's positives and negatives for both of them. Maguire, I think it's more about the fallout. Rather than actually, and Hoops, you mentioned something.
You can't worry about. I don't think you can't worry about the fallout.
No, okay. So you've said something there about he's got to pick a team to win. Part of winning is managing the press. It's managing the media. So that then, therefore, it impacts the decision. I think it does. I think that's one of the hardest things that New South Wales, as a state, have to deal with is how they manage the press. And this could impact the result. In fact, not could. It will impact the result.
And as experienced as Michael Maguire is at the NRL level, this is all new to him too. So to James's point, to have someone that you can rely on that's solid at fullback and gets away from the headlines, well, the microscope won't be on that.
Did Billy care about the media when he put Reece Walsh at fullback over Ponga?
Yeah. Exactly.
I think it's different.
Jimmy, respectfully, Madge isn't going to pick the team based on headlines. He couldn't give a rat's about headlines.
It's going to impact the game and the result, the mood.
How's it going to impact the game?
Because of all the pressure every time. Right? Okay. So if they
There's
pick,
pressure no matter what.
if they pick Edwards, is every person within that team, when they're up for media, going to be asked, "What do you make of the decision?"
Yeah,
and you stick
probably.
solid.
Yeah.
And they say, well, the team's been selected, the 17s
I
to
think
17.
Madge will handle that because that's what he wants. He wants everyone to go into camp, put the phones away. They're going to war. You know, that's Madge. You know, I'm not saying it won't be a distraction because it will, but there are so many distractions during Origin. Every player is under extreme pressure and scrutiny. It's 10 times more than the average game. But that's what you need to handle to win Origin. That's what you need. You need to, and the players need to rise above that. That's what separates them from the others.
Of course, but there's no doubt about it. As an independent observer of State of Origin, it's clear that the decisions that New South Wales make from the team selection are far more scrutinised in the media than the Queensland decisions.
You're right. But
So,
I don't think that's going to change the decision that he makes. Who would you pick?
I'd pick with James Tedesco.
You go Tedesco. All right. I've said it all along. I don't think... I'm happy with either one.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I don't think it's bad that we've got the opportunity to pick one or the other. I'd love to see Teddy get picked again. He's the incumbent and the captain. I think he deserves that. But how can you say that Edwards doesn't deserve it? You know, like the kid's been a machine for a number of years now, and I don't think anyone would begrudge any decision made here by Michael Maguire. I think the New South Wales media and fans should support it either way. Now,
how much does last year's series play a factor, Braith? Because if you go back to last year's series, Teddy, by his elite standards, was poor in the opening 2 games. Now, yes, he spiked in game 3 and played extremely strongly, but the Blues lost a second straight series. There's pressure on Madge. This is Madge's first series.
Pressure,
Madge has to try and win.
I tell you what's important too is that not get too excited by winning game 3. You know, like
100%.
You know, like let's not
in a dead rubber.
Means
It's
nothing.
a dead rubber.
Means nothing.
It is a dead rubber.
You lost the series.
Exactly. And I know New South Wales changed their style game 3, which was effective and which was a success, and it's good for confidence. And for the players that played, it's amazing. But you cannot look too far into that. This is a new series. New game,
new coach,
new team, new coach.
So he doesn't know anyone. When we talk about James Tedesco, of course he's got to treat him with respect, but it's a clean slate for all those players there, Hoops. If you're talking about looking back into next year, I think last year's irrelevant.
It's going to be interesting. Watch this space over the weekend. Now, what about the centres? Crichton is a definite. He's certainly there. Who partners him in the centres for New South Wales?
Yeah, the talk is the contenders are Jesse Ramian, Matt Burton. And otherwise, the stocks are all of a sudden very thin because Tommy Turbo's injured, Best is injured, Bradman Best, and then you also got Katoni Staggs out with busted ribs this week too. So all of a sudden, the options are dwindling. Zach Lomax was on the radar earlier in the year. I'm not sure that he's playing as strongly now as perhaps what he was when he first was killing it on the wing. So I think they're fairly thin in that department.
The benefit of having Stephen Crichton, he can play left or right. It's irrelevant, so it frees up that other spot. Like the fullback job, this is another. There's not a natural option outside of Stephen Crichton. I'd probably go with Jesse Ramian, but at a pinch, I'm not sitting here convinced going that they need to pick Jesse Ramian. The bigger body of Matt Burton, the kicking option of Matt Burton, depending on who you go with in the halves, is an added advantage. But
what about Latrell?
I can't have Latrell in my side. I don't think he's shown enough at all. I know he can rise to the occasion, but South Sydney fans have been waiting for him to rise at club level. And we talk about distractions in Origin. If Latrell's in the Origin camp, that's going to cause a natural distraction.
Well, Madge just said he's going to pick the side. The predominant key ingredient is form. And with respect to Latrell, I just don't think his form has screamed State of Origin this year. I'm not saying he hasn't done it previously on the biggest stage. He has. He can dominate when he's at his best, but he's been well below his best this season.
I think if he goes out and proves himself this weekend, that he's serious and switched on, I think Michael Maguire will have his head turned. I really do. In my opinion, Latrell's played his best when he's played in that centre spot. And he's a big game player. And this could be the strike that New South Wales need. If he plays well this weekend, then yes, I would. Yeah, but he was really poor against the Dragons the other week. A couple of mistakes. Yeah, he got a try, but whatever. That's gone. This weekend, if he turns up and he looks like he wants some action, then I'd pick him.
If he doesn't, who are you picking in the centres?
Yeah, probably Matt Burton for that kicking option, which I think is going to be huge.
There's a big tip around just over the course of the last couple of days that Madge is starting to lean towards selecting Cody Walker as his 5'8". Now, if he does that, and people will go, well, hang on a minute, Souths are anchored to the bottom of the ladder, and they've been awful this year. But Cody, over the course of the last 2 weeks, has shown signs of life and has been the one pulse of the side that looks as though he might actually be going to create something. If they go that way, Braith, then I'd have Burton at left centre and I'd have Stephen Crichton on the right.
So would I.